This video is sponsored by Squarespace. We're doing it again, this time for 2024. Hopefully the driver market isn't going to be quite as volatile as last year. Thanks for that, Seb. And maybe I'll actually get some predictions right this year. I'm going to go from my most confident team lineup and end with my least, my biggest stretch, riskiest prediction. And of course, let me know in the comments below what you think. Who's going to be where in 2024? Let's do it. Number one, my most confident prediction of a driver lineup in 2024 is Ferrari. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc will maintain their positions at that team. Seemingly great relationship between the drivers, both at a very high level. Carlos a fraction off Charles, but not a mile off. Ferrari have practically got the car, they've got the personnel. Fred Vasseurs coming in. I think he will do what needs to be done to strengthen that team from a strategy point of view. You could certainly argue that with Vasseur coming in and having such a good relationship with Charles, that might put Carlos's nose out a bit, but enough for him to leave the team. Things would have to go catastrophically wrong for anything like that to happen. And finally, both of them have contracts in place till the end of 2024. So as much as that doesn't guarantee anything, it certainly makes it more likely that they'll both be there. Number two, I'm going Aston Martin, keeping Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Grass is green, sky is blue, and Lance Stroll will be an Aston Martin F1 driver in 2024. No need to explain the fundamentals as to why, but also that I feel like I see genuine progression from Lance Stroll. I'm not just saying that. He is clearly a very, very capable racing driver. He out-qualified Vettel numerous times last year, out-raced Vettel numerous times last year. Wasn't the better driver overall, don't get me wrong. Race pace, quali pace, starts, very good in the wet as well. He just needs to work out his spatial awareness and I think he'll be fine. And then there's Fernando. He's rolled the dice for surely the final time in his F1 career. Gone with Aston Martin, believes in the project long term, the money that Lawrence Stroll's putting behind it. I don't blame Alonso for having faith and having more faith in this than in Alpine, to be honest. Now, we did sign a multi-year deal, so that implies at least 2 seasons, which would put him in that car next year. You could argue if Aston Martin are nowhere competitively, he might just think, I can't be arsed with this anymore. But I don't think so. I think Aston Martin are going to do a good job in 2023. We'll see in testing, I guess. Not that testing really tells us much, but I'm doing my season predictions after testing. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on the channel and my socials, you might know that me and Audas are doing a live show at the F1 Arcade on Monday the 27th of February. We sold out, which is amazing. All the tickets were up on my website that I host on Squarespace, because it's an absolute breeze. If you want to sell anything like tickets, like merch that I've done in the past with my posters and my pins, getting a product page set up, getting the quantities, the prices, keeping track of inventory, linking Stripe and PayPal, it's all honestly so easy. There's no reason not to try it as well, because it's free to have a go. It's only when you want to put your finished website live to the world you have to pay anything, and when that time inevitably comes around, head to squarespace.com/TommoF1 to get 10% off your first website or domain. Team number 3, Alpine, Gasly, Ocon. Look, I get it, okay? Yes, Ocon and Gasly had beef in the past. I'm part of the issue because I made a video about it. At the end of the day, I was only communicating quotes from the drivers. There was an issue in the past. I hope they've buried the hatchet now and they can crack on, because this is an amazing opportunity for both of them. They're both in their prime years, driving at a very, very good level, and they've got support from a manufacturer, which is important. Hopefully Renault put the resources in to make this team successful. I love Gasly, I love Esteban. Now, of course, the likelihood of both of them finishing on the same number of points is pretty small. It will be fascinating to see who comes out on top. I think if Ocon outscores Gasly, it can certainly be forgiven, with this being Pierre's first year in that team. It doesn't look very good, to be fair, if Gasly outscores Ocon, because Ocon's been there ages. And that battle for lead driver in that team, especially with Esteban's track record on track with teammates, could be a bit of an issue. But I have faith that they're going to park it. They're not going to let that get in the way of their performances and the team's performance. And I think they'll still both be there in 2024. If one is to leave, then probably Jack Doohan coming in instead. But I don't think that's going to happen. Number 4, McLaren. Norris and Piastri remain at that team. So there's 2 things that could lead to this partnership breaking up, okay? There's Lando being tempted away and Oscar just completely failing to meet any expectations. The latter I don't think will happen. I think Oscar's got everything there to perform. I don't think there's many excuses for him to not be at a very good level when he jumps into that McLaren. But certainly McLaren are under pressure to Give Lando a car that he can fight with at the top, or feels like he can fight with at the top in the next couple of seasons. Otherwise, he's right to be tempted away. Lando did sign that bumper deal until the end of 2025. But again, contractually, things can happen. If, say, Lewis Hamilton retires and Mercedes want him, I think they'd be prepared to put their hands in their pockets to pay out. They did for Valtteri Bottas when Nico Rosberg retired. Oscar's contract is till the end of 2024. And again, F2 champion, F3 champion, Formula Regional champion before that. He's young, he's adaptable. Daniel Ricciardo said it himself, ignorance is bliss, right? When you're a new driver coming into his car, you're not carrying a career of car understanding with you, and then that's potentially skewing your ability to get something out of a totally different style of car. Now, Oscar's going to do a good job. I'm confident of that. Lando may be tempted away. That's the thing. Mercedes, maybe Sauber, Alfa Romeo, obviously Andreas Seidel's there. I think McLaren are under pressure. If McLaren don't make a step forward, much closer step towards the top three, I really worry for McLaren that they're not going to be able to keep hold of him. Team number 5, Mercedes, staying with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. I think Merc will have a competitive package to fight in 2023. I'm confident of that. A 3-car title fight minimum is all we want to see. 6 drivers going at it. It would be amazing. There's always going to be doubts. Once a driver gets, into their mid-30s, there's always going to be questions around when they're going to retire, okay? Fernando's had these questions for a long time. Kimi Raikkonen had these questions. Sebastian Vettel retired at 35. He's 3 years younger than Lewis. I do think how 2021 panned out, combined with the struggles of 2022, I think that has lit a fire under Lewis, and I do think we'll get him for the foreseeable future. Now, if he did win the title in 2023, would he leave? Maybe. I still think that's probably more likely than him staying if he wins the title this year. Question is that going to happen? Because Max Verstappen and Red Bull are looking pretty unbeatable right now. I think Lewis thrives in adversity. People like to have a go at him for always complaining on the radio, but that's just how he expresses himself, The team understands that. He never gives up. Him and Bono have a great relationship. Bono knows how Lewis works. He knows that when Lewis says certain things, it means this. And they get the best out of each other. Lewis hasn't actually extended his contract beyond 2023 yet, so he doesn't actually have a contract for 2024. And then alongside George Russell, of course he's going to stay. He did everything to prove that he fully merits a top-tier racing seat last year. He's clearly not going to go anywhere else. Team number 6, Haas, Magnussen and Hülkenberg. The value of having 2 drivers with such experience in your team, I don't think is going to be missed at Haas. I think that's going to really help them push forward. Keep the repair bill down, make the most of that MoneyGram, title sponsorship, cost cap reaching. It's almost that my lack of confidence in this driver lineup for 2024 is more to do with the fact that I think they'll do a good job. I think they'll push this Haas package forward. The problem is, once you get into 2024, Nico Hülkenberg will be, 36 going on 37. There's a lot of exciting young talent coming through, which we'll see how they perform in 2023. Ollie Behrman, Zane Maloney, Tao Pourchaire, Felipe Drogovic is on the sidelines, Aston Martin. There's a lot of exciting talent, and when are Haas able to get themselves into a position where they don't have to rely on experience and they can go with young, exciting talent? Maybe in 2024. If K-Mag and Hulk can do the groundwork and build the foundations of that team, they might want to look elsewhere for someone a bit more exciting. Maybe Gunter's just scared of rookies now because of the track record they've had over the last couple of seasons, but maybe not. I think they'll stay the same, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a change. Look, Nico Hülkenberg, there's an assumption you're going to get a Nico Hülkenberg level of Nico Hülkenberg, who's a very, very capable F1 driver, but he has had time off. He is now closer to 40 than he is to 30. Maybe we're not going to get the same Hulk back. I hope so, because I've got a lot of love for Nico. I hope so, but there's no guarantee. Team number 7, Red Bull Racing. It's, of course, Max Verstappen, who has a contract until the end of 2028. He's there for the long haul, alongside Daniel Ricciardo. Sorry, Checo. It's not going to happen mid-season. Definitely not. But I think in 2024, I'm going to predict that Daniel Ricciardo replaces Checo. Red Bull definitely find themselves in a bit of a quandary at the moment, especially when you compare them to, say, Mercedes and Ferrari, whose, teammate pairings are within a tenth, maybe 2/10 of one another. Checo doesn't seem to be able to extract that performance at that level that Max can from that car. And you can't expect Red Bull to dial the performance back to suit Checo. They've got to go all in with their fastest driver. You have to do that. There is still a significant gap combined with the tiffs that they had last year. We talked about Brazil to death. There's clearly something going on there. It's clearly not quite as harmonious and rosy as maybe a lot of us thought it was. I certainly thought it was. Now, of course, Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen were teammates at Red Bull, and they came together numerous times. Hungary, Azerbaijan, particularly kind of dramatic incidents. But Daniel's in a different stage of his career now. He seems a lot more content. He seems happier in this environment where there isn't the pressure, taking a bit of time off. Burnout is a thing for everyone, right? And I feel like he was experiencing that last year to an extent. But now he's back in the fold. Red Bull know he has the potential to be as quick, if not quicker, on his day than Max. Yes, this is a Max Verstappen of, years ago, but I don't think Max has got loads quicker. I just think he's got more well-rounded as a driver over the last few seasons. I think his speed's always been there. Checo sees the opportunity to go to Red Bull. He's taken it. He's got his fair share of race wins, but he clearly wants more. I think what he's been saying, he's talked about how he wants, to move the car setup in a direction that suits more him, which seems to be a bit more understeery than the car is at the moment. But I don't think that's realistic. I think it's kind of like the way we were talking about Checo in 2021. Where he was a driver coming in who would just accept his role and do that role incredibly. There was no beef, right? But 2022, Checo understandably wanted more. He wanted more from himself. He wanted more from the car. He wanted to be closer to Max. He wanted to be able to fight on merit. And yeah, maybe he did bin it in Monaco on purpose. It certainly seems that way in my opinion. Combined with everything else that happened during the year, it demonstrates that there is clearly some friction there. Friction I don't think we'd see from Ricciardo coming in alongside Max. They get along like a house on fire. He's a marketing dream for Red Bulls now, especially with the Ford, combination. Daniel's the biggest, most popular driver in the States. He'll get out in the car occasionally so they can gather at least some data combined with their historical data of Daniel Ricciardo as well. Checo's gonna push for more. I don't see him falling into line like he did in 2021. He did it less so in 22, and I'd argue even less so he's going to do it in 2023. So I think he might be a victim of that. Now, perhaps Red Bull will look at the limited data that they can get from Daniel and think, oh, actually, he's not the driver he used to be. And maybe he isn't, but I believe he is. I believe that driver is still there. These drivers are human beings. We all have tough periods in our careers, but I don't think that has to define his. I think Daniel Ricciardo would do bits. And I do think that a prime Ricciardo is quicker than a prime Perez. Team number 8, Sauber. Alfa Romeo, just Sauber. Alfa Romeo deal will be gone by 2024. So maybe they'll be calling it Sauber Audi by then with a Ferrari engine in, which is a bit weird. But anyway, Zhou Guanyu is driver number 1. He's staying. Alongside Alexander Albon. I was seriously contemplating doing a Joe Norris lineup for this team, but I'm going with Alex. But let's start with Joey Boy. And as far as I'm concerned, he pretty much caught up to Valtteri Bottas by the end of the season. He was within like a tenth and a half. And that was very impressive to me. In his rookie season, I think he outperformed most people, including my expectations. He's doing bits on track. He's young. He's got massive support in China, which is obviously a hugely important market, not just to F1, but to the team as well. And I would not be surprised in 2023 if he outscores Valtteri Bottas. Do I think it's going to happen? Let's wait for my predictions. But I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I'm saying. Now, obviously, as Audi come in, is the value of Joe's backing financially going to be as big of a factor? No, not as big of a factor as it would be if it was a privateer team like Haas, for example. But I think, like Checo Perez, who when he first came into the sport, he had huge backing from Telmex from Mexico, from Carlos Slim, and was considered a pay driver and not necessarily there purely on merit. Sergio's done enough over the years to prove just how good he is and that he deserves to be in the sport on merit, and now that pay driver label has left him. I foresee a very similar career for Zhou Guanyu based off what we saw in 2022 anyway. If he can keep building on that momentum, there's no reason why he can't be a stalwart in F1. But then we come to Valtteri. I know Valtteri fans, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I know he's got a contract till the end of 2024. I appreciate that. But like I said at the start of the video, contracts, they are legally binding documents, but there are payout clauses. In fact, Valtteri got bought by Mercedes from Williams when he still had a contract. With Joe closing up so much by the end of the season, and Valtteri, he'll be 34 going into 2024, in the twilight of his career, no doubt, I think a driver who's younger and just as quick, not necessarily quicker, is surely an appealing proposition if they're available, right? Because there are restrictions to what drivers are available, what teams, right? And Audi want to be a title challenging OEM from 2026 onwards. Building a relationship with a younger driver earlier on is only going to help towards that. Valtteri scored fantastic points at the start of last year. The car development tailed off, which partly I was a bit concerned he wasn't able to do more to help maintain those levels of performance, but I get that a lot of that is out of his control. I understand that. But do I think in 2023 he'll do enough to absolutely consolidate completely his position at that team? I don't see it. And with Alex Albon's contract up at the end of 2023 and Williams, I don't see a big step forward, I'll be honest. I would not be surprised if they're still last. Surely, and I know you're going to call me biased, okay, surely if you're sat there at the end of 2023, a 28-year-old Alex Albon versus a 34-year-old Valtteri Bottas, I'm going with Albon, and I really don't think that's because I love Alex. Just like when Pierre Gasly dropped out of Red Bull, he went to AlphaTauri, he built back his career and showed that he could do bits, and now he's got the shot at Alpine, a team with potential to fight because it is a manufacturer-backed team. You could argue the same with Alex. He went to Williams, kind of equivalent to Toro Rosso for Gasly, rebuilt his career. I think I've got no reason to believe he's not going to have a strong 2023, and then there's an opportunity at a big OEM, Alpine for Gasly, Audi for Albon. I think it would be silly for them to not consider it. Consider a driver like Alex becoming available, because I do think he is rebuilding his stock and I think he's very good. Max Verstappen does what he does to people's careers. He did it to Gasly, he did it to Albon, he's doing it to Checo now. Team number 9, AlphaTauri. Okay, Red Bull, sister team, junior team, whatever you want to call it. Driver number 1 is Yuki Tsunoda. Driver number 2 is Ayumu Iwasa. Now, initially when I was scripting this video, I actually had a whole kind of section written out about how Red Bull were going to sell AlphaTauri and it will be rebranded to something like Lamborghini. Because, you know, Faenza is actually based pretty close to Lamborghini's headquarters in Sant'Agata Bolognese. Makes me hungry. They're a direct rival to Ferrari and their liveries would look mean as you like, right? I would love Lamborghini to join F1, but I do not think it's going to happen. I do think Red Bull will sell that team, whether it's to Hyundai, to Porsche, obviously Ford's with Red Bull now, Panthera, Cadillac Andretti, whatever. I've made a video all about it. Now, I do think that's going to happen. I maintain that they will eventually sell that team. They can't justify having a whole F1 team to promote a clothing brand that they could just promote on their main car. But consolidate, hold, sell for big money, because the value of having an F1 team, of owning an F1 team now is much higher than it was 5 years ago. Who makes it from De Vries and Tsunoda? Look, I've gone Tsunoda because I do think Yuki's going to outperform and outscore Nick De Vries in 2023. It's a huge ask for Nick to jump in and be at the level quickly enough. This is going to be Yuki's 3rd season, not just in F1, but at that team as well. You look at the qualifying head-to-head last year, you look at the points, and I don't think it tells the full story. I think Yuki was much closer to Gasly than most people give him credit for. Yes, he made some really dumb mistakes. Silverstone, Canada, I was there when he just shunted it into the wall. It was bad, okay, I get it. But the raw talent, the raw diamond that I go on and on and on and on and on and on about with Yuki Tsunoda is there, and I believe he will come good in 2023. I believe in Yuki more so. I don't think De Vries will do a bad job. He's very experienced. He's raced in Formula E, won in Formula E, was right behind Alex Albon in Formula 2 in 2018 when it was George, Lando, Alex, Nick. But no, the main bit of logic I've got here is that I still feel like Nick De Vries was hired to AlphaTauri with the anticipation that he'd do a good job and it'd be a stepping stone to see if he can replace or be the second driver, more so than replace Checo, be the second driver alongside Max Verstappen going forward. He's got a very good relationship with Max. They would be then full Dutchy. I don't really understand the link between him getting into that car, apart from, yes, of course he's had good results, but you know what, there's lots of drivers with really good results and F1 experience who don't have a seat at the minute. However, another candidate has since come in after the De Vries deal was announced, which is Daniel Ricciardo. Now, he's going to be closer to that Red Bull team. He's going to be lobbying for that seat. There's no doubt in my mind that, especially once we get to Australia, Daniel's motivation to get back in an F1 seat, if it's not higher now, which I think it probably is, it's going to be through the roof. He's definitely going to want to come back. Yes, Nick is a lot younger than Daniel Ricciardo, and maybe they would still do that. Maybe they would still want to consider Nick De Vries, whether it's Checo, whether it's Ricciardo, whether it's De Vries. I just feel like that's going to go to Daniel. Daniel, and I don't know if Red Bull would be prepared to keep De Vries in that AlphaTauri seat to see, okay, we'll keep you here for a few years until Daniel's filled in for a bit and then retires, and then you can come in alongside Max. Maybe, I don't know. Editor Tommo here. I completely forgot to mention why Ayumu Iwasa is the right man for that seat, by the way. 5th in Formula 2 last year, just 7 points behind Logan Sargent. Picked up 2 wins, 2 P2s and 2 P3s. Performance in the Feature 8 at Le Castellet in France was a serious highlight, incredibly impressive. He had an inconsistent year, but his peaks were high. I know there's loads of talent in this Red Bull pool. You've got Enzo Fittipaldi, Dane Maloney, Jack Crawford, Isaac Hadjar, but I'm punting on Iwasa, not only to deliver on track, but also Honda still supply Red Bull at the moment. So to bring in another Japanese driver, there is a potential there. If Nick De Vries comes in 2023 and absolutely wipes the floor with Yuki and does a fantastic job, then maybe he's in for a shot of Red Bull in 2024. But do I believe that's going to happen? No. We'll see. So finally, team number 10, it's Williams and it's Logan Sargent. But who is alongside him? Because there's 3 drivers, Nick De Vries, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, who... There's 3 drivers for 1 seat, and I'm not adding an 11th team. I was thinking about doing Cadillac Andretti, but that's not going to happen in 2024 now. I think that's pretty certain. But no, alongside Logan, I've decided to go with Sergio Perez. Dorilton haven't sold up the team. They didn't get into bed with Porsche. They've got their golf sponsorship now. Cool. They're not actually a mile off either. I mean, there were 5 individual occasions last season where they got into the points. The amount of times that Alex would finish, 11th, 12th, 13th, just on the fringes where, if you get a couple of DNFs up front, you inherit a couple of positions and get into the points, scrape into them. I don't think the Williams is a complete no-hoper. I think there is the potential there for sure, especially with, I think Alex is driving at a really good level at the minute. I think Logan Sargent is going to come in and do a good job. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. He was right on Piastri's tail in Formula 3. He didn't have that smooth F2 journey, but then he was F2, Rookie of the Year last season as well. And I do somewhat have faith that even if Williams still finished 10th, I don't think they'll be as far off the back. I don't think we'll have a team this season that is a mile off the back. I think, to be honest, I think all 10 teams will be able to get points on any given weekend. I really do think the step up in competitiveness as these cars start to converge, as the drivers get more comfortable with this new type of F1 car, I don't think any team will be a complete kind of false hope. And with Checo's experience coming in alongside Logan, you've got 2 drivers from North America there as well, which from a Dorilton marketing point of view is going to be a good thing. That team needs some finance, and the support that both drivers will bring is only going to help. And I would love to see a Sargent, Perez, Williams start to move up through the ranks. You could argue, sure, yeah, the same about Alex Albon, but Perez is at a later stage of his career. He's experienced the lower midfield as well, which I think is going to help. If he was to go to Williams, help him push that development of that car, maybe in ways that Alex can't. I think the shiny Sauber Audi opportunity for Alex, if that was to come, I think would be more appealing to him, and I'd understand that. But I think Perez could help take Williams forward again. We all want to see Williams being up the top and Williams being great again. It's of course, come on. But unfortunately, that means in my predictions that Nick De Vries and Valtteri Bottas are without a seat. It seems harsh, but these are my predictions and I'm sticking by them, and I'll probably be wrong, and that's fine. Let me know some shouts in the comments below, because maybe you'll predict it right and then we can look back at this video and you can be like, oh my god, this aged well. Like and subscribe if you enjoy what I do. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. My name is Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.